Welcome in, everybody. Dynasty lunch break time. Yes, we are back. We were off last week, Thanksgiving. Obviously, I wasn't able to be here. As you can see, I'm wearing headphones today. It's because it's an AMA day. And if you remember, on AMA days, I do like to put it out there. Just put a little something. Actually, I guess I could take them off for the moment, but I'll put them back on. It was a point I was trying to make. But all that being said, I put a link out there. You guys can actually join me on the show. Whether you want to show your camera or not, that's up to you. You can join me on the show, ask some questions, all that kind of stuff. Party Bucko says, playoffs started early in my league. Should I play it safe and bench Kenneth Walker for Jacoby Myers? To me, I get why you would consider doing that. Jacoby Myers has been playing great lately. So if you wanted to play it safe, I would have no problem doing that. That said, Kenneth Walker against Arizona, I expect that to be a high-scoring game with Seattle, Arizona. So I would probably still go Kenneth Walker, but I would not blame you one bit for going Jacoby Myers and playing it safe. I just would probably be willing to risk it a little bit more. Powerfold, what's good? Jack, go ahead and send me a DM on Twitter. I'd be happy to help out with you. Randall, what's good? Matt, trade a 26-second for Jameis 12-team Superflex win and in. QBs are Caleb and Stroud. Appreciate it. Here's the only issue. On the surface, I have no problem giving a second for a quarterback that's starting and has at least a small chance to start again in the future. That being said, I don't love Jameis's matchup against Pittsburgh this week. Yes, I know he played them already and he played pretty well, but that was also in a really weird snow game that's tough on defenses to be able to keep up. So I don't know that I would make that move necessarily. I'm with you on the concept of the move, but I just don't know that it actually helps you get in this week. Nick, contender, 10-team Superflex looking to go and shore up running back. Would you move a late first and second for Bucky Irving? With the way Bucky's playing right now, like I would have no problem making that move. Let's see. Hoodlum Media. My league still has trading open. I think I have a shot to compete, but need to win this week. And some of my best assets are on buy. How aggressive would you be trying to buy a win this week? Look, if it's win and in, I'm being very careful because even with the best assets that you add, you never know what could happen on a given week. So I wouldn't be too aggressive. I would be aggressive enough that I at least have a legitimate starting lineup and give myself a shot to get in. But still, we even know playoffs are still such a crapshoot 1 week and out. So while, yes, we play for ships, I wouldn't push it to the level where I'm jeopardizing my future. Faith Family Fantasy Football was good. Jimmy, the UK says, hey, what's good, my guy? Good to have you here. Matt's here. James is here. The group's all here. Jimmy, got a contending team, super flex, 12-team. No one will trade, and it's depressing. I have a couple of those leagues. It's tough. One offer I have is send a late second for Aaron Jones. My running backs are Connor, Swift, and B-Rob. Do I do it? I think that's worth it. Yeah, I have no problem doing that to get myself a running back on a contending team. Coping strategies if I don't win the ship this year. I mean, look, I'm going to tell you guys a little secret here. Overall, I do very well in fantasy football. I won multiple ships last year. I'm in first place. I'm going to make it in 15 of my 21 leagues. And a couple of those I knew were rebuilding going in. So overall, it's been a good year for me. My home league with guys that do not do this on the regular, I have never actually won it. Never. 11 years. I've gotten second multiple times. I have finished as the highest seed maybe close to half of those years. Hasn't mattered. Have not won the ship. So, yeah, it can be tough. I lost the championship on a stat correction one year. I had the championship one and then lost it 2 days later on a stat correction. So it can be tough out here on these streets. Randall, non-tight end premium, PPR contender. I have Kittle, Laporta, Jonnu, and Pitts. My wide receiver 3 will be Pittman, Olave, Westbrook, Akini, Shakir. Would you trade Pitts for Sutton? It's crazy that we've gotten to that point. It's crazy that that's a legitimate question, but it absolutely is. And honestly, with what you have, it gives you a better shot to win the ship. So I would do it. You're losing the trade value-wise, but you knew that going in. So I think it's worth it. Brizzleton, what's good? I know everyone's rooting against the Chiefs this week. Hey, go Chargers. Go Chargers. I love Justin Herbert. Matt, he would not do the Aaron Jones deal. James inherited a terrible orphan team with the 101 and probably the 11 and 12. Would hate to give up Ashton Genty, but is it better to trade out of him? Yes, it is, but do not do it today. That pick is only going to gain value the closer we get to combine, NFL draft, and then your own draft. Like somewhere in that range is where I'm trading him, just because he'll have more value there. You can get yourself some picks. You can get yourself some extra assets. Maybe you can get 103 and then 105 as well, or something like that. Genty is, amazing, but one piece is not going to carry you. So I'm willing to make that deal. As trade deadline hits and waivers are locked down, anything you do last minute, i.e. seek out free agents to be on the waivers before everything else is frozen. Yeah. We talked about this a couple weeks ago on the Dynasty Nerds podcast, but I am really looking at, are there any second string running backs, whether they're handcuffs of my own or handcuffs of somebody else? Are there any running backs out there that if the starter got hurt, that they would get a decent amount of carries, or at least have a shot to get a decent amount of carries? Because if so, I'm putting them on my roster. I'm not as worried about wide receivers, not as worried about tight ends, but backup quarterbacks and backup running backs, because you know when to play them. You have no idea when to play that backup tight end. You have no idea when to play that backup wide receiver. But you know when a guy's in line to get touches at running back, and you know if the guy's going to start at quarterback. So I greatly prefer to get those backups for the playoffs just in case. My guy Hoodlum, not a problem. Here we go. Benjamin Williams. 12-team super flex, PPR, 0.5 tight end premium, start 10. Which retool trade to make? Send Chuba and Ridley for Godwin in a first. Send Chuba and Russ for CMC in a third. Send JT and Russ for B-Rob first, Tillman. I don't love the Chuba and Russ for CMC. I'm okay with the JT and Russ for B-Rob and a first and Tillman, but I think your best one is probably the Chuba Ridley for Godwin in a first, but I still don't know that I love that. Like, it's a good trade. Yeah, I would do that deal. That's the one I would do. Big Bad Brad, currently sitting on Bucky Irving, Tyrone Tracy, Braylon Allen, and Isaac Guerrero. Not a playoff team this year. How should I be thinking about these young backs moving forward? One, if you're not a contending team, I'm trading Isaac Guerrero right now, because chances are he is not going to be a very relevant back in the future. So right now I'm looking at, okay, can I get a late second? Like, that's what I'm trying to get, a late second from somebody. You probably drafted Guerrero with the 4th. You move from a 4th to a 2nd. That's a great trade, making a profit. Bucky and Tracy, I don't want to move, but if somebody is willing to give me a premium there, then I'm willing to take it. Braylon Allen, there's probably just not much you can do. All right, there's a lot of questions I have not gotten to yet, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put on my trusty headphones here. And I am going to give you guys an opportunity to join the show. So don't feel like you have to have your camera on, although I would love for you to. But if you want to ask me a question in person and we can talk through a situation or something like that, we can absolutely do that. All right. And I'll keep going through these until somebody hops on. Mac Evans, must-win week for me. So do I start Disley or Kincaid? Flex 1, Amari Cooper, Jameson Williams, Cedric Tillman. And grade this trade from 2 weeks ago, Bijan, 2026 second, and J.K. Dobbins. 225 late first, 12 team. I would want the Bijan side of that. All right. Andy has joined us backstage. Andy, I'm gonna bring you to the stage here. Let's see. Andy, can you hear me? Andy, you there, my guy? Oh, I heard something for a half second. All right, we'll come back to Andy. Hopefully he gets whatever is going on with the tech stuff figured out. Let's see. So this is going. Oh, there we go. I think he's back. Andy, can you hear me? I saw him for a second, then he disappeared again on me. Might be struggling with service right now or something. All right, we'll get back to him. Let's see. Benjamin, he's going back to that trade for Chris Godwin. He said, I'm thinking finding a way to swing a first and the third trades, but with a twist. Third would switch to JT, ETN, and Russ in a second for DJ Moore and Ramondre plus that group. I still like the first one the best, though. Let's see. Eli, stat correction loss is brutal. My home league is all I care about. I can't imagine if that's the only one I didn't win. Yeah. I've been in leagues where I've won multiple ships and they've only been 2, 3, 4 years long. But the home league, the one that I care about. Now, the good news is, once again, I'm in first place. I will be getting a bye in this league. And looking at my squad, I feel like I have far and away the best squad. But something always seems to happen. Taylor, my dynasty is looking very running back heavy. Who would you move on from? Pacheco, Brian Robinson, Saquon, Mason, Josh Jacobs, Rico, and what young wide receiver would be a good target? I have no problem moving on from Pacheco. And I'd be looking at Rico unless I need him for my run this year because he's got a pretty good matchup against Cincinnati this week. So I wouldn't want to move him too early there. But those would be the two guys specifically I'd be looking to move. Somebody wants to pay the right price for Brian Robinson, willing to do it. Not moving Saquon Barkley unless I get a true King's ransom. Matt, thoughts on about choosing players to keep for an expansion draft? We are keeping 10 players each, and then 2 new teams can draft up to 3 from each of the existing teams. So we will lose a max of 3 players. I love expansion drafts. I think they're fun. With that being said, it depends on your format. But if I have 2 good starting quarterbacks in a super flex, there is no chance I'm putting them out there. And probably even a third. If I have a relatively good third, I am leaving those guys on my team. Even if it's like, man, it's only Matthew Stafford, though. Yeah, but quarterbacks are really tough to come by. And your league is about to find out how hard they are to come by once you go from 10 teams to 12. So that'll be tricky. Then when you add in then I just go position by position and I'm just taking my most valuable assets. But quarterback's the one that I'm really keeping a close eye on. Matt, he's agreeing. Go for the Godwin in a first deal. I agree there. Let's see. Does Abanikanda do anything in San Fran? Probably not. Probably not. It's going to be first touches are going to go to Garendo. Then we're looking at Patrick Taylor, and then it could potentially eventually be Abanikanda. But I don't feel super confident. Reminder, guys, I'll put this here. I know Andy tried to join. It just didn't work. But I'm going to post the StreamYard link. If you guys want to hop in, instead of typing a question, you can hang out with me. Just hang out. Jimmy, would you spend 25 late third on Hunt as a potential flex bench depth despite going in the playoffs? Yep, I would. Thirds mean almost nothing. Almost nothing. And if I can shore up a just in case scenario, and if something were to happen to Pacheco, all of a sudden you have a top 12 back for the playoffs. So yeah, I am willing to do that. Joe, early thoughts on the 26 class. There's some really good young quarterbacks that are looking like they're going to end up being in the 26 class. So I think that's the biggest thing right now is the quarterbacks there in that class. Some decent wide receivers. Haven't heard a ton about the running backs yet, but quarterback is really what I'm looking at in the 26 class. There's some good options, some high-end options potentially there in the 26 class. Do you know why there's such a delay on clear injury reporting? I have people I want to pick up, but don't necessarily want to cut anyone. There seems to be a lot more game day decisions this year. It does seem like that's the case. Yeah. And it does make it tough for us, but coaches are going to try to withhold as much information as they can. And the more that they can find out they can get away with, the more they're going to do. So if the league is not pushing them to talk about these guys as clear as they should, they're not going to do it. Definitely makes it frustrating for fantasy football, though. Definitely makes it frustrating. Larry, in Superflex PPR rebuild, are you trading Purdy and Pittman for Lawrence and Rashid? Ooh, Larry, that's a good one. That is a good one. I am not the biggest Trevor Lawrence fan, but I really like Rashid Rice. I would say I am a little bit worried about Purdy. Man, I would probably do it. I would probably do it. It's close though. Josh, what's up, my guy? Good to have you here. Let's see. Need a miracle with backup running back PPR. Bigsby, Benson, Vidal, Mostert, Edwards, Singletary, Braylon Allen, Algier, Brooks, Abdullah, and Akers are all available. Pick 2. All right. If you need a miracle, then you're probably desperate. If that's the case, I'm going to go with guys that have the highest ceiling. In that case, I think Raheem Mostert makes a lot of sense. And then after that, we're going to assume that there's not any injuries. So, because those are just so hard to pick. If so, Bigsby still getting a decent amount of goal line work, and it's not a terrible matchup for them this week against Tennessee, who just gave up a butt ton of points. I know that they're a better defense than that, but still. So probably be Bigsby and Mostert if I had to. But yeah, that's a tough spot there. In person is awesome if I wasn't at work. No problem, my guy. No problem. We were trying to get Andy in here, but unfortunately, it just didn't work out for him for some reason. Jack just traded Jonathan Taylor, Chris Olave, and a 27 first, second, and third for Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm a contender. Was this a good trade? I am running back heavy even after the trade. Overall, yeah, I think it is for a contender. I don't love having to give up Jonathan Taylor because he has a really nice playoff schedule. So that's the only part of this that I don't like. But long term, like I don't really trust Chris Godwin. 27 is forever away. And if I can trade 2 similarly aged players, but one's a receiver, especially at this point in their career, I would probably do that. So I think it's a good deal overall. Like I said, don't love giving up Jonathan Taylor with a really nice playoff schedule, but I get it. Garendo, Abanikanda, McCormick worth stashing in Dynasty. Not as much Abanikanda or Abanikanda or whatever. That being said, Garendo and McCormick are a little bit interesting. McCormick, good receiving back, showing a little bit here with the Raiders. Problem is they're probably losing their head coach, so that's tricky. Garendo, I could see being the backup to CMC next year, so I think he's valuable in that sense. I have Daniels on bye. Would you start Winston or Will Levis? I'm going Levis this week. It's a pretty good matchup for him overall against Jacksonville. Jacksonville's been pretty brutal this season on defense. Winston, I know he's been putting up some big games, but that Pittsburgh defense, they already got to see him once, and it was in the snow, so it's tough on defense to really be able to react in the snow well. So I would go ahead and go with Levis against Jacksonville. 12-team Superflex tight end premium, McLaurin for a 26-second third and 27 first. I'm a productive rebuild team. What do you think? Yeah, I'd be willing to do that. You get a first, a second, and a third. Yeah, I don't love it being so far away, but sometimes it's nice if you're trading getting it from a good team. Chances of them still being good in 3 years, a little less likely. So I don't hate it. Is Judy going to keep balling? I don't know that he will this week, but I think he's going to have a pretty good playoff schedule. And so because of that, I feel good about him then. I just don't trust him fully this week against Pittsburgh. Would you trade Odunze for Higgins? I have to win this week to make the playoffs, and my current young wide receivers are Marv, Reed, and Odunze. Long term, I'd rather Odunze, but yeah, if I got to make the playoffs, I'm going with Higgins. Higgins gives you the best chance. Should be a really high scoring affair against the Dallas Cowboys this week. So I think that is a worthwhile move to make. Eric says, I am best offer I'm getting for Kamara is a 26 mid to late first. Should I take it or hold and see if I can get more next year, early season? This is probably the most you're going to get, unfortunately, at this point. In season, teams are desperate. They're going to give you a little bit more right before the playoffs than they will in the offseason before they know if they're actually a contender, who's hurt, where they're deep, where they're not. So this is probably the time you're going to get your best offer. I don't hate that. I don't love it, but I don't hate that. I'd see if I can even just milk, can I at least get a third on top? I'm trying to get a little something on top if I can. Birdman, I wish I had questions for you to join the stage. I'm past the trade deadline in both leagues and hoping to ride into the playoffs on buys. Hey, bravo. Absolutely. James, I'm on the outside looking in on the playoffs, not in control of my own destiny. Time to sell Cup and or Adams. Yeah, probably. They're not going to get any more valuable than they are right now. This will probably be their high point for the rest of their careers. So, yeah, I probably would see what I can get. Can you sell both and get a first and second from a team? Might be able to. Tyler says, Devy League, 12 team, heavy on running back and tight end. Tyler, I don't see the rest of your question, though. But I'm glad that you have good tight ends and running backs. Hey, buddy, what are you having for the lunch break today? Well, right now I'm drinking some kombucha. Now, we all know that I am not health food nut or anything like that, but this is actually, it's pretty good. It's pretty good stuff. Has the fizz of a pop, but fairly healthy for you. So doing that right now. But to balance it out, I had Cocoa Pebbles. Cocoa Pebbles for lunch. That's what I had. I had a much healthier lunch yesterday, but today it's usually either hurry up and eat the fastest possible thing I can eat right before this starts, or wait and have a late lunch and eat after this. So, yeah. Ryan, what's good, buddy? Ryan and I are battling out for a playoff spot in one of our leagues. I think it's you. I think it's you that I'm battling for a playoff spot. Oh, yeah. There we go. He even said it here. Yep, trying to keep me out of the playoffs on the trade addicts. We will see. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. I got a couple early on in the season where I missed a couple people starting, and that would have absolutely changed my median score and things like that. So yeah, definitely disappointed. If I would have done a better job with my starting lineup and not missing some guys early on in the year, we would have been just fine. But here we are. Would you trade Puka for Drake May? QBs are Burrow, Tua, JJ McCarthy, Kirk, wide receivers, Neighbors, Puka, T, Garrett Wilson, Pittman, and Shakir. On the surface, yes, I'm always trading a wide receiver for a young quarterback. The only part where it gets a little tricky is assuming you're a playoff team, you're going to want Puka in your playoffs where you just don't necessarily need Drake May. So maybe you can wait until the offseason to make that move. But if not, overall, I'm still making that move because I want the good young quarterback. Andrew, 12 man, 1 QB stacked roster, 103 to 105. Would you trade Benson, Brooks, Waddle for 101? Would you? So I'm assuming you're going to give all 3. That's a lot to pay. But it's Ashton Genty. Yeah, I would. It's maybe a little bit of an overpay, but I think it's worth it. Nicholas, I have 101 and need a running back, but also have Drake May. If Tet goes to the Patriots and Genty to an iffy landing spot, who would you pick? Right now today, I am still going with Ashton Genty. It would have to be a pretty bad landing spot and him fall farther than I would expect him to. Right now, I think he's a top 15 pick in the draft. I don't see a scenario where I wouldn't want, it would have to be something really frustrating. He's sharing time with somebody good. That would be the only scenario that would take me off him. Matt, would you start Levis over Russ and Stafford for week 15? Levis plays Cincy, which feels like a guaranteed good game at this point. I don't think he does. I think Levis plays Jacksonville this week. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me check. Yeah, Levis plays Jacksonville. It's Cooper Rush that plays there. Oh, wife's trying to silly. All right, let's keep it going. I'm gonna take these off. Nobody's hopping in right now. I'm gonna take these off. They're starting to irritate my ears. I have sensitive ears. But yes, all that being said, I would be fine playing Levis over Russ and Stafford. Ooh, Russ has Cleveland though. Yeah, I'd be willing to do that. James, is Khalil Herbert DOA? Got excited about the Bengals. Yeah, more or less. I'm not holding out a lot of hope for him. I'm making the playoffs in my league, but got crushed by the CMC news. Who would you start at the flex? Adam Thielen, Deebo Samuel, Juwan Jennings, or Tank Dell? Looking at this week, I do not trust Deebo Samuel anymore, and Tank Dell is still very iffy. I like the connection that Brock Purdy and Juwan Jennings has. So right now, I think I'm going Juwan Jennings out of that group. Lucas, what would you trade for Pickens in terms of 26 picks? I'll make the playoffs in a super flex tight end premium best ball league, but lost CMC, so trying to shore up. You're going to have to give your first and second. But I think it's worth it to try to win a ship. Yeah, but I think you're going to have to give your first and second, my guy. Let's see. Ryan, inbox Dynasty offer. Trade away Higgins for Worthy and a first. I wouldn't. I just don't trust Xavier Worthy. I want to. He's got the speed. He's in the right offense. All things should be lining up. But it just isn't. I'm going to stick with T. Higgins. Do you think Chase Brown's value will be a strong sell high in the offseason? I do. I think with how strong this running back class is, I think they're going to get a physical back. And I think that's what they wanted Zach Moss to be. I think they wanted them to be more of a 1-2 punch. Right now, he's getting all the work. So if you can sell him high, and you don't need him for the playoffs, obviously, this is more of rebuild, middle of the road type thing, then I'm totally fine selling him. Tyler clinched 3 wide receivers, 2 flex. My wide receivers are MVS, Tillman, Amari, and Keon. I have bench dash wide receivers in Burton, Rome Wilson, and McMillan. Which running back would you part with? Rico, Baris, JT, Tracy, and Ramondre. Ooh. Yeah, you definitely need another receiver. Honestly, I don't have any problem selling any of those guys. Really, the only running backs that are untouchable for me right now are, and even untouchable is not true. Any offer can change my mind, but the ones that you're gonna have to crazy overpay for is Bijan, Gibbs, Achane. Those are the only 3 right now. And then I would also, if I'm a strong contender, I'd throw Saquon Barkley into that mix. Outside of that, anybody else can be available. So I'm going to see which wide receiver gets me the level of wide receiver that I need. Can I give a Tyrone or maybe a Ramondre or Tyrone Tracy? And can I get a Mike Evans to kind of help me win a ship? Like that's probably the move I'm looking at. Cooper Kupp, something like that. Can I give Rico plus a little something to get a Cooper Kupp? I think that's the move I'm looking at. I'm in a 10-team QB, 10-team 1 QB league, currently in second. I just acquired McCaffrey. And Garendo. Look at this. Ryan said, trying to keep you out of the playoffs. Rico, Pitts, or Coleman if he plays. Really don't expect you to answer. Who do I expect to have the fewest points? I can't see that. Now you got reverse psychiatry on top of reverse psychology. That was a Parks and Rec reference if you didn't get that. Yeah, so I feel like I can't even say anything at this point because I don't even know how you're going to read. Like, are you going to read it correctly or incorrectly? So, yeah, I can't say squat, but all I know is I hope you picked the wrong one. There's one guy in there that I hope you don't pick. I'll say that. That's the only hint I'll give you. There is one guy in here I hope you don't pick. I'm pretty comfortable with the other 2. But there's one player that I'm like very nervous you're going to select. So we'll see. All right. Mark, what teams do you think are 100% going to draft a running back in the first 3 rounds? All right, let me get my helpful cheat sheet here. Look at all the NFL teams. All right. Make sure I got them all here. All right. Teams that I think 100, I'll say 95% because I would have told you 100% the Cowboys last year, and they definitely did not. But guys, teams that I feel 90% or better on will draft a running back in the first 3 rounds. Dallas Cowboys, Minnesota Vikings, New Orleans Saints, I would say probably the Chargers and the Raiders, the Chiefs. So it gives us 6 teams. The Broncos, the Browns, and then I'll put, so there's 8 teams that I think have a 90% chance or better, which would be a lot. I don't know that we'll get that many that go in the first 3 rounds. The other one that I would throw in there is Pittsburgh if they lose Najee Harris, which I think he's probably gone. So I think we have like anywhere from 7 to 9 teams that could draft a running back in the first 3 rounds. All right. I can only get to unfortunately I gotta hustle. I gotta get out of here pretty quick. But let me get to a couple more questions. I'll just choose some random ones. Have you ever bought a jersey too soon? I have a signed Denzel Mims and Damian Harris. My guy, as a Browns fan, every jersey I buy, unfortunately, is too soon. Let's see. Let's get to a couple more. This week, Jared Goff or Malik Neighbors in Superflex. That's a nice little spot to be in. Malik Neighbors or Jared Goff. I just gotta stick with Jared Goff in Superflex. That's tough, though. That's really, really tough. Good for you. Last one here. Jason says, still in the playoffs with a win this week. Loss makes it iffy. Was second in points when I made the trade. Playing teams with better records the next 2 weeks lost. Consolation bracket for the top picks. Ooh, it's tough. I see what you're doing, Birdman. I see what you're doing. All right, so that wasn't actually a question. I was just relating with the people. All right, so Joey, likely meter on 2025 tight end starting producers. Loveland, for a chance for him to be a producer, which I would basically consider a top like 15 guy is a producer. I would say 8, 7, and for Fannin, yeah, the last 2 guys both I would put at like a 2 or 3. So, guys, thank you so much hanging out with me. Had a great time answering all your questions. Might even sneak on TikTok later if I have time. Appreciate you guys. Hope you have a great rest of your day.